When I heard about an upcoming LEGO game about creating contraptions and solving puzzles using the iconic building bricks from my childhood, I jumped at the chance to get a review copy and try it out for myself. However, the game I played felt very different from what was shown in the trailers. While that's not necessarily a bad thing on its own, and the game definitely had its moments, there are several factors to this that ultimately brought down my experience with a title that held so much promise. But real quick before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more indie gameplay and pre-release reviews. This is a small channel, so every person makes a huge difference and allows me to keep creating these videos. Anyways, let's get right back into today's review. LEGO Bricktales takes a different direction from the normal movie adaptations LEGO is known for, moving away from the satirical action gameplay and instead focusing on what made the brand so beloved in the first place: the limitless building creativity. The ability to manipulate LEGO blocks right on the computer and my Steam Deck was an exciting prospect, and the comedic identity of the brand was still saturated throughout the experience. But multiple design choices and restrictions throughout the length of the game soured this initial excitement. While the concept itself is all about creative freedom, the word restriction is a recurring and ever-present shadow looming over the player's journey from beginning to end. In Bricktales, your main goal is to travel through a series of unique themed worlds in order to help their inhabitants and collect the energy formed from their happiness. To do this, you'll be exploring these environments and building a wide assortment of structures and contraptions to help those in need. Building in LEGO Bricktales is by far the strongest aspect of the game, and probably the reason you're watching this review today, so let's dive right into that first. The building environment is laid out in two main sections: your building area and your pieces. Depending on what you're constructing, the building area can have vastly different shapes, physics requirements, and rule sets to follow. I found the controls to be rough at first, but naturally it becomes a lot easier once you get used to the way pieces snap around the environment, and I was glad to see that the control scheme still holds up, even on the Steam Deck and controllers. Another interesting feature that I hinted at earlier was the physics engine in the build mode. Oftentimes, these things that you're building have to hold up to specific requirements, from walkways having to support weight across the entire platform without collapsing, to flying vehicles that need to be balanced while hovering. And the in-game physics engine is a neat little testing space to complete each challenge set before you. While it's fun to complete these creative puzzles and put your own twist on things in the building mode at first, the game's ever-expanding list of restrictions and requirements on each puzzle will prevent you from creating your own solutions from your imagination, squeezing you into a more linear form of puzzle solving, despite the entire creative premise of LEGOs as a whole. There will be many instances where you'll have to create something ugly and bland to solve a puzzle, with no wiggle room to experiment with different solutions due to the block and space restrictions. Thankfully, if you really care about how your creations look, there is a limited sandbox mode available to touch up certain creations after you've made them. If you think of this experience as purely a puzzle game rather than a LEGO game, that could work for a while, but these systems feel, again, very restrictive toward the player. While I do stand by these complaints, I still had fun with a lot of the challenges later on in the game that tested my problem solving and building skills. It's not a perfect system, and will no doubt disappoint those who were looking at this game for building to their heart's content, but it still works as a puzzle game in its own right. If we're on the subject of restriction, however, there's nowhere near a better example than the game's world exploration. Bricktales is split between 5 distinct worlds, each with its own characters, challenges, and theme. When I started the game and traveled to the first of these worlds, I immediately noticed a multitude of signs warning me of issues to come throughout the rest of the experience. Firstly, there are a lot of sound effects that are just not there. You can't hear footsteps or background sounds in general while exploring, just the music for the world you're in. There are sounds with cutscenes, dialogue, and character abilities, but it feels like some of the relaxing charm is sucked out of the game because of this lack of sound design. This is just a personal opinion, but how can it be a LEGO game without the satisfying clicking sounds of colliding bricks? Another issue that only took a bit of exploration to find out is that, well, there isn't really much to explore. These worlds could have just as easily been a level select screen with how linear and inconsequential they are. I have no problem with linear games, but the problem lies in the lack of story or reasoning behind this linear world. While each area has different problems to solve, everything essentially boils down to talking to a character, building what they want, then talking to the next character, with a few fetch quests mixed in for good measure. Alongside this basic structure, perhaps the most disappointing part of the game is that you don't get to meaningfully interact with any of your creations. If you build a vehicle, you don't get to actually do anything with it besides interact and automatically follow a predetermined path, just making the world feel all the more constrained. It's a shame that such little importance was put on most of these areas, because the game's visuals are actually really cute and relaxing, with every area made completely out of Legos and a bright lighting style that makes everything pop. In contrast to this gripe with the level design, there are specific sections of each world that actually were engaging to me, and the main one is the power puzzles. Each world has a new ability for your character to discover in order to progress and find hidden collectibles, all of which need to be obtained from a puzzle room. In these rooms, you're restricted from switching abilities on your own, and instead must solve an area-wide maze using what the game provides you. If the game combined its strongest aspects, the building and the puzzle rooms, instead of spacing out its puzzles through long walks, I think it would have been a much more engaging experience overall. Besides these puzzles, a strong positive of the world stories, or seemingly lack thereof, is the dialogue between characters. Bricktales has the same comedic writing style that you'll recognize if you've experienced anything in recent LEGO media, providing a healthy balance of wordplay, references, and general ridiculousness through every world that kept me entertained even with the background characters. Overall, my feelings were very mixed throughout this experience. While different aspects of the game could work on their own, the way everything is put together really dragged out my time with the game, instead of letting me focus on its greatest aspects. There is a fun and relaxing puzzle game in LEGO Bricktales. It's just surrounded by other ideas that aren't fully realized, and the game as a whole suffers as a result. If they could trim out the unnecessary parts of the game and really lean into the building and physics aspects of the experience, the product would be all the better for it. I did really like virtually building with Legos, and hopefully this game will open up the gate to future releases that push the idea even further. Thank you for watching today's review. If you have any questions or comments about the game, I'm always active in the comments, so feel free to talk to me there. Again, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Plus hit that little bell icon to be notified every time I release a new video. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Misspelled Moose, where I post about gaming, my art projects, and random nonsense. So check those out, links are in the description down below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.